Yo, it's that time again. Let's talk about the books on the pull list. Welcome back to Comics Are Dope. I'm BJ Kicks, and this is the pull list. It's my weekly series where I take a look at all the books coming out. I'll tell you what's at the top of my reading pile. We'll talk about some books I'm a little less enthusiastic about. We'll even talk about some new series debuts and trade paperbacks, all hitting stores this Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. Now, I always like to start these things off with the top of the pile. These are the books that I am most excited to read in a given week, and they are waiting for me behind the counter at my LCS. That's Fight or Flight Comics in Raleigh, North Carolina. If you happen to be in the area, they're right inside Triangle Town Center Mall, and you should stop in if you ever have a free moment. They'll take good care of you. Now, these books are behind the counter. They're waiting for me, and if I could, I would read them immediately upon arrival at the store. That's how good these books are in most cases. And we're going to start things off with the books at the absolute top of the pile. And that's Absolute Martian Manhunter, issue number 2. Now, issue 1 of Absolute Martian Manhunter was definitely a bit of a mind blank, right? Like, Dennis Camp is the writer of this series. Javier Rodriguez does the art. And he does the colors as well. And apparently he colors the book as he's drawing the book, which is a skill that I don't have. But hey, that's why I read comics. I don't make them. But anyway, this book is so trippy and like psychedelic feeling. Like the John Jones, who we know is the detective that is also, Martian Manhunter. He was in some sort of an accident. And the result of this accident is that now he can hear and see other people's thoughts and memories, and they kind of haunt him. Honestly, he doesn't want all this information about people that he has access to. It's almost like that moment where the superhero gets super hearing and is completely overwhelmed by it. Like, how do I tune out all these conversations? It's like Bruce Almighty when all of a sudden everybody's praying to him. Anyway, except it's not comedic at all. It's actually really sad. And he keeps him up at night. It haunts him. It's all in his dreams. It even ends the book hey, we're the Martian mind blanker. And it's yeah, that's exactly how it felt reading this comic. I'm very excited because Dennis Camp continues to push the boundaries of what a superhero comic can be, whether that's in the pages of The Ultimates or even Assorted Crisis Events, his creator-owned series that's going on right now at Image. And now this, I don't know, man. There's got to be a best writer Eisner in this man's future. But for now, I'm just going to enjoy the ride with Absolute Martian Manhunter, issue number 2. Cover price is $4.99. Now, the next book here at the top of the pile is one I'm kind of curious on. This is Batman issue 159. This is the second issue of the Hush 2 storyline. And, Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb are back on the mainline Batman title, telling a story with Hush. And on its face, that sounds amazing. And when that announcement was made that they were going to be coming back, I think the question on most of our minds was can Jim Lee do it again? Will this new installment compare to the heights that we saw of Hush or even All-Star Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder? Jim Lee in the All-Star Batman era was amazing. And I gotta say, Hush 2, at least the first chapter, didn't really tickle my fancy in the art department like I thought it would. There are definitely some pages that are man, that is a Jim Lee page. And then there are other pages that just kind of felt a little phoned in, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it was some of it was the lack of backgrounds, but I think the coloring has a lot to do with it as well. The color palette seems muddier than it needs to. But anyway, reading this book, and by the way, it's Hush is back and there's also a new villain. I don't know. The story was always going to be secondary to the art for me. But I was reading the Summer of Superman special last week, and I'm reading it on DC Universe Infinite because they had it up there. And it's the first page is, of course, the cover for the Summer of Superman special. And the next page is actually a teaser of the cover for Hush 2. And I was very shocked because in that moment I realized I'm oh, this is Jim Lee versus his past self. And that's not exactly true. This is also Jim Lee trying to see if he can compete with all of the dozens of artists who have now kind of had some time in the spotlight, but who studied all the greats, including him, and are attempting to be greater. So I'm like, Jim Lee ain't versus Jim Lee no more. It's Jim Lee. Gosh, that was terrible grammar. But it's Jim Lee versus Jim Lee. Yeah, sure. But it's also Jim Lee versus Jorge Jimenez. It's Jim Lee versus Dan Mora. And it's like, when I compare the art in Hush 2, Chapter 1, to those guys, it's like, honestly, man, I'd rather see this new generation keep killing it on Batman. But why I'm still like, okay, we'll see how this goes. There was an ash can preview. If you bought issue 1, you probably got that ash can if your shop is a great shop like mine is. But the line art in that ash can for issue 2 looked amazing. So much so that I'm like, well, maybe it was the colors that messed this up for me, because this looks great. So anyway, I'm curious to see how that translates now that once they add the colors and the word balloons and all that to it. Is it still good? Is it lackluster? We'll find out. Hush 2, Chapter 2 in Batman 159 is out this week with a cover price of $4.99. Next up, we are going to move over to the world of Marvel Comics with One World Under Doom, issue number 3. One World Under Doom, the event written by Ryan North with art by R.B. Silva. I gotta say, R.B. Silva on art just makes this feel like a movie experience. It's kind of reminiscent to at least the coloring style. It's kind of reminiscent to Civil War, like Steve McNiven. I really like it. I like it a lot, but it's great. I mean, if you read House and Powers of X, then you know what R.B. Silva's work looks like, and I don't need to convince you to pick this book up. All that to say, One World Under Doom, Doom is a sorcerer supreme. They were like, okay, well, you can only be the sorcerer supreme until you're done saving the world with us. Should have known not to leave it that open-ended. That's crazy to do, because now Doom was like, oh, I'm going to solve all the ills of society. And how am I going to do that? I'm going to be the emperor of the world. And it's interesting because it's like he's trying to convince the world to allow him to be its dictator. And, honestly, it's a cool concept and all until you start to see it executed. And it's like, all this would be cool if, like, our president wasn't our president. Like, not to make this crazy political, but I'm reading sequences in the comic. And if you ever read Charles Soule's Daredevil run, which was written during the 2016 election aftermath, right? When Kingpin becomes mayor of New York, Daredevil has this sort of reckoning moment. And he clearly could have been any number of voters commenting like, how did this happen? How could this person rise to power? Doesn't everyone see how evil he is? And we're kind of doing the same thing with Doom. And I'm just like, bro, like I have such a low tolerance for comics reminding me of the situations that we're in. And it's weird because it's for completely opposite reasons than you normally would hear that argument. You can check out my newsletter if you want more unfiltered thoughts. But all that to say, it's kind of like, what is the word? It makes it a drag to get through this series. The series doesn't give me like what I really want from a comic, and that is to be distracted from some of the ills of society sometimes. All that to say, though, I'm still curious to see how this goes, and it's been executed well so far, except it hits a little bit too close to home at points, which is ironic considering like how long this has been in the works. Like, we could not have planned for this timing. Like, I'm terrified. Anyway, One World Under Doom, issue 3, out this week. Cover price is $4.99. Next up, Ultimate Black Panther, issue number 15. If I am like complaining of the ills of society and not wanting to be reminded of the world outside my window, if I really just want a book that is great, it's action-packed, it is still thought-provoking, it's not mindless, but it feels like a world that has nothing to do with what I got going on outside my window, Ultimate Black Panther is that book. Wakanda is in West Africa, and Wakanda has been walled off for far too long. And now that the maker is trying to remake the world in his own image, and he's got this whole council that's going out to conquer different parts of the world until he returns, Africa needs a champion. And so far, that's going to be T'Challa. So that's an interesting concept all on its own. Like, can T'Challa be a sort of hero for more than just his home country of Wakanda? And that's kind of classic stuff that we've seen all the time. The other part of this, though, is that vibranium might have some mystical elements that we never knew about. What if it has a consciousness? What if vibranium doesn't like being like subservient to the people of Wakanda? What if it's got a mind of its own? What if it's got a body of its own? And so now T'Challa, is already super stoic, can't really trust anyone, and now he can't even trust the vibranium. Very, very interesting stuff by Brian Edward Hill. I love this book. And that's why it's at the top of the pile. Issue 15 is out this week. Cover price is $4.99. And that's it. Those are the 4 books at the top of the pile, the books I'll be reading first when I pick up my new comics this week. Now, let's move on to a segment I like to call On the Radar. These are new series debuts or jumping on points that perhaps should be on your radar. And this segment is always brought to you by Global Comics. They are my favorite app. Global Comics has all of your favorite indie publishers, IDW, Boom, Dark Horse, Image, like Mad Cave, all of that. They've got all of those. Plus they've got DC Comics. Plus they've got all sorts of indie creators. Like if you are a comic creator right now, you can create an account on Global Comics and have your book available either for free or behind a paywall. And if you're just a person like me who loves to read all the comics I can and wants to discover something new, the best way to interact with Global Comics is through their Gold Pass. You pay one annual fee, or you can do it monthly, and that gives you access to anything on their platform that was previously behind a paywall. The best deal in comics, and you can make it an even better deal by going to comicsaredope.com/global to get 30% off that annual pass. Now, thanks to Global Comics, we can take a look at some books that are on the radar, new series debuts that are bound to grab somebody's attention. And we'll start over in the Marvel Universe with Predator vs. Spider-Man, issue number 1. This is written by Benjamin Percy, who's been writing a lot of Predator stuff at Marvel. Most recently, I read the Predator versus Black Panther book, and I really enjoyed it. I think there was a Predator versus Wolverine as well. I haven't read that. But this is going to find a Predator on Earth hunting down Spider-Man in New York City. Sounds cool to me. Sign me up. Predator versus Spider-Man number 1. Cover price is $5.99. Next up, from Image Comics, we got Youngblood Deluxe, issue number 1. This is the Youngblood series, the original Youngblood series, but recolored, relettered, rewritten, and remastered. So Rob Liefeld promises that this is the best way to read Youngblood ever. Kind of like they did with The Walking Dead Deluxe, where the big switch up was that it was in color for the first time, and that's still ongoing and still on my pull list. But so they did that with The Walking Dead Deluxe. Now with Youngblood Deluxe, it's kind of updating the script, remastering the colors to make it just kind of pop just that much more for a new era. So interesting stuff. I've never read a Youngblood book, so might as well start right here. $3.99 is the cover price on that. If you're still feeling nostalgic and you're in an Image Comics mood, Medieval Spawn number 1 is finally coming out. This book has been pushed back like 1,000,000 times. I don't know anything about Medieval Spawn except that he's a cool character design. And that's pretty much all I know about most characters in the Spawn universe. But nice little background series if you wanted to know more about that character. Issue 1's out this week with a cover price of $3.99. And lastly, the last book on the radar this week is technically a number 1, but this is the Godzilla 70th anniversary. Foil Classics presents Godzilla number 1. This is going to be a reprint of the IDW Godzilla from 2012, if I'm not mistaken, but in a big foil comic for $10. The reason I wanted to shout it out is because this year is Godzilla's 70th anniversary, and IDW is going to be reprinting a bunch of different Godzilla stories from all throughout Godzilla's history in these nice little foil classics. So if you want to get started on the ground floor, if you want to start from the beginning, then grab this one. Cool Arthur Adams cover on that. And that's the last book on the radar this week for comics coming out April 23rd. Now, this new format I've got, it means there's a lot of books at the top of the pile that I really, really love. There's books that are in like the fledgling 4 that, those are the bottom of the pile. basically. And then there's books in the middle that I never get to talk about. So maybe I'll introduce a new segment called Just Missed the Cut. Sorry, I watched The Masters, but there's a few books that I can't really get too deep into for sake of time, but just know Justice League Unlimited #6 is still on the pull list, still a good book. The Last Boy from Dan Panosian was a really great series debut. I really like the first issue. Issue 2's out this week. And Bug Wars. I've not read Bug Wars #1 or 2, but I felt like it's worth a mention because Jason Aaron is writing it. He's also writing the Ninja Turtles, and I hear nothing but good things about that series. So issue 3's out this week if you're on the lookout for it. Now let's talk about, though, the Fledgling 4. These are the books that are still on my pull list, but they're at the bottom of my reading pile, and quite honestly, they're on life support. I need a quick jolt of electricity, meaning I need to read an issue. It needs to be a really good issue so that I can decide if I'm going to keep it on the pull list or not. So I'm going to start this off talking about X-Men issue number 15. That's in the Fledgling 4. And honestly, I don't really want to talk about this book. What I'd rather do is talk about how X-Force issue number 10 is out this week. It's Jeff Thorne's last issue of X-Force. This book, I'm calling it the first casualty of the From the Ashes era of X-Men. So when this new era of X-Men started, I guess about a year ago, a little less, we knew that we're going to have a new X-Men series. We had X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, Exceptional X-Men, and those are supposed to be the 3 flagship X-Men titles. And Tom Brevoort was like, we're going to do 18 issues a year of those books. And we're going to also make a million other X books. Like rule number 1 of From the Ashes is make more books. And rule number 2 is don't kill him. Anyway, I'm joking, but it's a lot. It's a lot. I said last week that it's perplexing, like how much they are publishing X-Men content. But because Tom Brevoort literally said he wanted to debut a new series every month. And not too much on Tom Brevoort. This is not an attack a creator session. My point is just, there is so much. There is so much to read. And the creators tried their best to tell us like, oh, you don't have to read every book. Just read the ones you're interested in. And that's not something you can tell a Krakoa fan. Like we read everything. But this is too much. This is way too much to try to read. Don't read everything. The problem with not reading everything, though, is if we're not supporting these titles, if they don't have enough room to breathe, they don't sell enough to justify their existence in the 5 or 6 issues we're giving it. We don't even have the whole first wave of books collected in trade paperback yet. Exceptional X-Men is sitting on my shelf, releasing the week of May 6th. It's going to take until May 6th for us to get the initial 3 flagship titles of X-Men collected in trade paperback so that we can all evaluate whether or not we want to jump in, right? If you're a trade waiter, that is. And by the time you get that book on your shelf, we will have lost X-Force, X-Factor, and I believe NYX, all gone due to presumably low sales, because if the sales were high enough, they would keep it going, right? So I don't know. For me, it's just frustrating. Like, why are there so many books when you're trying to drink through a fire hose, right? Like, you can't drink through a fire hose. So your initial instinct, of course, is to put the hose away from your body altogether. I'm not drinking any water until I find a safer vessel to do so. And that's exactly how I feel about the X-Men. And that's why X-Men is in the Fledgling 4. But X-Force number 10 is also issue 300. It's a nice anniversary issue. Cool little celebration. It's got a backup story and all that. And you should read Jeffrey Thorne's X-Force because it's good, even though Marvel didn't give you enough time to really evaluate it before they canceled it because of the trade schedule. So next up in the Fledgling 4 is The Amazing Spider-Man issue number 2. Amazing Spider-Man written by Joe Kelly with art by Pepe Larraz. Pepe Larraz on art. Again, if you read House of X Powers of 10, you know how good that dude is, and it looks great. Joe Kelly's writing felt fine. Like, I think all I wanted from a Spider-Man book was for it to be fun with good art, and it delivered on both of those. But if I'm honest, it was like kind of mid. Like, it was fine. It wasn't astonishingly great, spectacular even, but it was good enough. Is it going to be good enough to stay on the pull list after issue 2? We'll find out. Cover price is $4.99. Moving over to the distinguished competition, Superman. Issue 25 is out this week, and I was so far behind on Superman, and I'm still so far behind on Superman, but that Summer of Superman special from last week absolutely did its job. Absolutely. Summer of Superman was so good that I'm excited to jump back into Joshua Williamson's version of Metropolis, and there's some cool stuff going on. This is an anniversary issue, or whatever, a milestone 25th issue, so we're getting inflated cover price and maybe a little bit more pages. $5.99 is a cover price on that. And the last book in the fledgling 4 this week is The Avengers, issue number 25. Avengers, written by Jed MacKay. I believe this one's got art by Valerio Schiti. I'm not necessarily keeping up with Jed MacKay's Avengers. I only jumped in because Storm joined the team, but it's tying into One World Under Doom. And as much as it's like between Jed MacKay and Ryan North, like that's the whole of the Marvel Universe. Jed MacKay is writing Avengers and X-Men. Ryan North's got the Fantastic Four. So we've kind of got all the bases covered. You probably should be reading Avengers for the tie-ins. It's probably going to tell a lot more because the One World Under Doom event kind of jumps back and forth. It's kind of jarring. We'll get the Avengers response and then we get the Fantastic Four's response in a completely different area. So for each of those, you probably want to get it fleshed out more by reading Fantastic Four and Avengers respectively. And so far, so good. I just need to jump back in. Issue 25 is out this week with a cover price of $4.99. So we talked about the books at the top of the pile. We talked about the books at the bottom of the pile. We even talked about a few books in the middle of the road. But now it's time for the moment you've probably been waiting about 6 months for, and that is trade waiting. These are new series being collected for, in most instances, the first time. So if you don't go to the shop every Wednesday, this is your chance to find out what's hitting the book market and the direct market. See if you're interested in grabbing them. We'll start off with The Moon is Following Us, Volume 1, the newest series from Daniel Warren Johnson, who's like the king of emotionally heartbreaking comics, with art by Riley Rossmo, and Daniel Warren Johnson does some art in it as well. Very interesting series about a father and mother. Is that a couple who is trying to save their daughter from a nefarious situation that they helped her get into. And they got to go through all kinds of stuff to get to her. It's a 10-issue maxi series. Issues 1 through 5 are collected in this trade paperback, Volume 1, which is out this week with a cover price of $14.99. Next up is Plastic Man No More. This was a Black Label series by Christopher Cantwell and Alex Lenz. Basically, like, if Plastic Man only had a few days to live, how's he going to spend his last days as he is deteriorating? Well, trying to make good for once and do right by his son, who is not cooperating very much. I really enjoyed this series, and I'm excited that it finally has a hardcover for just $24.99. Next up, Deadpool Team Up, Blood of the Dragon. I know that Rob Liefeld's been like, I'm retiring from Deadpool at some point. I don't know if this retirement is like with this series or some other series that's already, well, I don't know. The point is, if you like Rob Liefeld and Deadpool, then here's a book with Rob Liefeld and Deadpool. Cover price on that is $17.99. I'm not a salesman. I'm a commenter. I don't know. And lastly on the trade waiting pile, this is Dark Knights of Steel, the deluxe edition. Of course, Dark Knights of Steel came out in 2 standard size hardcovers. You could have got part 1 and part 2. There might even be a trade paperback out on shelves, but this is the first time we're getting an oversized hardcover. And I love this series by Tom Taylor and Yasmin Putri. It's basically the DC universe, like by way of Game of Thrones. I really enjoyed this series. I think Tom Taylor is at his best doing the sort of Elseworlds thing where he can take a character down to their core. And so it's like, it feels like you're reading a DC universe that's familiar to you, but the situations are completely different. The stakes are even higher because anybody could die. Anybody can get it. You don't know what's going to happen. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this a lot. There's a lot of twists in this book that I thought were really interesting. It's got a sequel and everything. But anyway, $49.99 on that deluxe oversized hardcover. And that's it. That was the trade waiting pile. You have watched me talk about all these books. You've heard my voice go from really great to struggling to talk. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video now. If you want to talk about these books, hit me up in the comment section or join us on Facebook or Discord. All the links are in the description down below. I'll see you in another video soon. Until then, stay safe, stay awesome, and read something dope today. Peace.